Well, are you ready? Are you set for another showdown? But first, I have an important message for you, the viewer. The series between Leebokgu and HamburgerSasu, I am kind of discontinuing it because I did cast part number 2, but my OBS decided to act up, and pretty much the entire video is unusable. So yeah, that's the point we've reached. I cannot use it. Completely donezo. That aside, I've got another replay for you between HamburgerSasu and another player called KingsNeverDie. And I hope this one is going to be a good one. And it's a single replay, a single game, so based on the length of the video, you will also know that it's going to be a long one. And for a change, I've turned on the real-time lighting effect, as we can see right here. It might actually become a little bit too distracting if the game goes on, because at the moment I am not liking it all too much. It's kind of, it feels so alien, because I've never ever used the function. It looks so weird to me. It looks really weird to me. I'm gonna turn it off. Don't think I can get used to it. So let me turn that off. Boop, 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 boom. Real-time lighting. Be gone. Alright. So HamburgerSasu is playing the Terran, the race we love him on the most. And he's already opening up with an interesting build because he's going for a choke, it appears. This is honestly one of the... This is maybe the 5th time I've seen him open with this specific build order. Goes for depot, barrack in the front there as well, and starts a gas because he wants to go for mech. Whether this is a good option or not, I don't know. Because more often than not, I see HamburgerSasu lose with this specific build. Because while you do get vultures and all that kind of jazz up and running very early into the game, you get a very early power spike. But then, because most of the time these players don't go for +1 or +2 command centers, or as the Protoss starts off with a +1 Nexus, they fall behind economically. So if they don't get a kill early on into the game tends to flip in the favor of the Protoss somewhere around the 10 to even 16 minute mark. And that's purely because the Terran has fallen so far behind in worker count that the Protoss can just outmass them, outbuild them, and throw more punches and a variety of plans at them and approaches that the Terran cannot adapt quickly enough. That's what is most of the times the case. And maybe the video length already spoils it. Maybe I've already spoiled it by saying that this is a single replay. But nonetheless, let's just see how it works out. Marine finds the location. Marine is going to try to get in, but it takes two takes 2 cannon shots. KingsNeverDie saw it happen, so he calls out a haha. And yeah, the game is just going to be a very slow one for now. So he mines up until 200, 300 in total gas. Then he starts a factory. He's not starting a second factory. Instead, he's just focusing on getting more minerals, and he starts a +1 command center because he knows that KingsNeverDie cannot go aggressive. He's trying to lift over... oh, that's an engineering bay. He's going to use an engineering bay for scouting purposes. That's quite nice to see. Considering he couldn't get in through the front, he's going for another option. That's making an engineering bay, floating it in and floating it out, and getting himself the information that he needs. Probe cannot get in. Vulture wants out. Vulture's going to chase the probe. Maybe he's going to do something else. Not too sure. Maybe he's going to try to sneak that Vulture in by having the Marine tank the cannons, and then the Vulture is going to try to sneak through. Maybe he's going to try to sneak through regardless. Yeah, he's going to try to sneak through regardless, but there's 2 cannons there in the front, meaning the Vulture goes down. Engineering bay is finished, so he's going for a recon mission. Factory number 2 is now on the way. He's also added on another gas. Whereas KingsNeverDie is, with his tech progression, he's starting with Dragoon range. Damn. I don't have Corona, don't worry. He starts off with Dragoon range. He has a Citadel of Dune added there as well. And there's a robotic field here in the front. A little bit puzzled, because there's a Templar's Archive. I just don't really see the point of this Dragoon range so early on, because usually you want to spend that gas elsewhere. Support bay coming down there as well. He doesn't need Dragoon range to kill this Engineering bay, and I assume he's only going to make 2 or 3 of them? Oh wait, of course. I'm thinking in the normal Terran build terms, but considering that HamburgerSasu went for mech, and Zealots would not be a great option into tanks and into Vultures specifically because of Mind and Vulture Speed and Vulture Micro. So he's going for Dragoons because Dragoons specifically are very good against Vultures. Because they take almost no damage from Vulture shots themselves. They do take damage from the mines, but Vulture has concussive damage. And these are medium-sized units, so they take a lot less damage from the concussive damage from the Vultures. So that's why Dragoons are a really good option into the mech build order that HamburgerSasu is following right now. If I shuttle in, 2 Zealots in there, just going to try to disrupt the economy a little bit, or maybe kill something here on the low ground. He's just going to try to be a bitch and be very annoying, but he decides against unloading. He's just going to fly straight out. Nope. Unloads 1, keeps 1 in there. Or is he going to land it somewhere? He's just going for a little bit of a distraction, pulling those Goliaths away from the shuttle so that the shuttle can leave the base without much problems. He's made a depot here on the side so you can dodge storms to this very mineral patch. Also gives him a little bit of information on the map, although this is so far away that the fight will probably never, ever reach this point. So yeah, the game is just very slowly progressing. KingsNeverDie is preparing his first attack, but the scan comes out from HamburgerSasu. He sees the Templars, sees the shuttle, and he sees that 1 more robotic facility is being added on, so he only saw 2 of them, which means that he doesn't have to worry all that much. Looks like KingsNeverDie is expecting a tank drop. That's why he has those Dragoons here. They're mostly there, at least at the moment, they're mostly there to intercept dropships that are aiming to tank drop and kill the probes. But HamburgerSasu didn't go for a starport whatsoever. He's just going for mech, Goliaths, going for level 1 weapon upgrade on the Goliaths. Tank sieging up here around the main command center because he wants to defend against those drops. Shuttle already in position to fly in. Another shuttle also there on the other side, ready to fly in. There's a huge opening here, huge opening there as well. Will they make it through? That's up to debate. This one goes in, but it takes a lot of fire there. And the Templar gets unloaded, but the other one goes in as well. Templar gets unloaded there as well, but both shuttles get sniped by the Goliaths. Great quick reaction there from HamburgerSasu, although the shuttles were already on low HP from being forced to fly through those turrets. Although this one here was mostly just poorly controlled because it flew too close to the sun, so to speak, and took too much damage from those turrets. Being a little bit too greedy, but then again, juggling 2 shuttles at the same time, you're bound to make some mistakes. So that is not really something out of the ordinary, so to speak. Starts dishing out a lot of gateways to be warped in, not warmed in, but warped in. That's the way to say it. I'm having some real troubles pronouncing some words there. This now also at the same time starts adding on a lot of Stargates because he wants to prepare himself for carrier play. Or at least that's what I'm assuming, otherwise you wouldn't be making 2 rows of Stargates here. There's gonna be another 3 Stargates there. KingsNeverDie hasn't really done much, but then again, we're only 8 minutes into the game, and oftentimes you forget that a game has only been going for 8 minutes. And while it is quite rare to see so little action from an 8-minute game, I'm expecting this game to start ramping up real soon, real quick. HamburgerSasu spamming out a lot of engineering base because he wants to get as much vision on the sides here, so that the turrets get extended vision range, but so he also gets more reaction time to shuttles flying in. Of course, he keeps scanning the front here. KingsNeverDie is trying to make one of the biggest shuttle drops you can imagine. He's got most of them loaded up, loading up the rest. Got 2 more shuttles on the way, which is also going to load up. There is the fleet beacon. There is cybernetics core number 2. He's going for shield upgrades, of course. He did go for a level 1 weapon upgrade. but he's not going to get much use out of it, so he's just going for all the carrier air upgrades, namely shields, armor, and weapons. Although the armor upgrade has not yet started for his air. KingsNeverDie is planning on going for a two-directioned attack with the shuttles, but he gets spotted out, which means the Goliaths are gonna fire on the shuttles. Templars do get unloaded. Templars get stormed off on those Goliaths. Nothing much gets done, but the other drop already tried to fly in as well, but gets sniped down as well by the Goliaths, and nothing gets achieved. Great play there from HamburgerSasu using Goliaths to snipe shuttles, which is something you don't often see. The only other instance where I can remember a player going for Goliaths to defend against shuttles is a game Light played against Lovely Rabbit, and Light just so happens to also lose that game. Which I hope isn't a foreboding of what's going to happen to HamburgerSasu, because I kind of want to see him win, but considering the game is quite long, as the video length has implied, and as I have implied a couple times before already, and considering we're pretty much already 10 minutes in with no action, no damage dealt to either player whatsoever, and we're going straight into carriers on top of zealots. Both players have reached the amount of workers they want to have, about 70, maybe 80 for HamburgerSasu, 77 for KingsNeverDie. Start spamming out cannons on the middle to slow HamburgerSasu down in case HamburgerSasu wants to start pushing out to the front to go for the counterattack on KingsNeverDie. Landing tanks there up on the hill just to make sure that these cannons on the side don't get finished up. I'm going to assume he's going to place tanks up here on the hill as well. We can start taking down those cannons there on the middle. There he goes, starts unloading. Or maybe he's going for the tank drop. He did use his scan. He saw the main base there. There's a little opening here where he can land his tanks. He can land his tanks here and try to get a shot off on the pros, but a fight happening here in the front. Zealots have been unloaded on top of the tanks. Zealots going in through the front there as well, getting a great round on those bunkers, making their way through, but the tanks there up on the hill are just dealing out so much damage on those zealots on the low ground that not much is achieved aside from killing a couple of bunkers and a depot here in the front, and probably a couple of units there as well, but nothing too serious. KingsNeverDie very quickly pumping out a new wave of carriers to replace the dead zealots they just sacrificed for that sake. But at the same time, the tanks here in the front already taking a large brunt of the damage. The initial push from HamburgerSasu already starting. And this might be one of those cases where KingsNeverDie is gonna get cut out unprepared. Or that's what I want to say. He already has 6 carriers. 8 of them are on the way. They might spawn in time. Though the cannons here in the front have already been cleaned out. All HamburgerSasu needs to do now is unsiege, move up, and start sieging the front there. KingsNeverDie is also preemptively already starting another expo at about 12 minutes into the game. So that in the case that he does lose his carriers, or in the case that he does lose a lot of supply in a very quick or very short period of time, you can start making a lot of zealots and dragoons here on the expo, and either go for the flank on the front or go for the counterattack here on the front of HamburgerSasu's base. We're counting about 14 factories here in HamburgerSasu's base, a single starport, single science facility of course, no vessels in the... oh, there's a vessel right there, so vessels are in the mix. Carriers have finished, he's got 12 carriers here ready to go, ready to fight. He has capacity, interceptor capacity upgrade. A couple of Goliaths there in the back, but the number of Goliaths is not big enough to fight against those carriers. Although he is going to deal some damage to the carriers, I am sure. But the carriers are pretty strong at this point in the game, and they already have 1-1-1 upgrades up against 1-2-2 upgrades actually. So HamburgerSasu is ahead in upgrades. The next wave of upgrades is about to finish for KingsNeverDie, but he's still a little bit behind on him. But as long as he can keep using and abusing the lack of vision that is provided by the hills, he can potentially win this fight. But HamburgerSasu is fighting against this pretty well. He's already killed 3 of the carriers, and the third one is very close to dying. HamburgerSasu now pulling back his tanks because he wants to keep those tanks alive. But more Goliaths are streaming in from the base from HamburgerSasu, and is honestly just target firing the carriers, which is a very smart move to do in the case that you have a bigger number of Goliaths than the carriers can take down within the time frame that you are taking down the carrier. I think I said that right. I hope it didn't sound like nonsense, because in my head, I feel that I said something wrong here. I feel that I screwed up. But yeah, as I mentioned before, this Gateway Expo being used to make zealots, trying to get a flank off on the army. HamburgerSasu has. My phone is ringing, but I can apparently ignore my phone. But that's all good. Nothing serious on my phone. He's going for a counterattack here. He's not planning on defending with his carries. He's instead planning on flipping the tables on HamburgerSasu. Trying to go for the fly-in to maybe kill the command center, but he catches himself attacking an engineering bay for no reason whatsoever. There comes the Arbiter, but the Arbiter, does it have energy? Can it use stasis? It does have enough energy for a stasis. He killed the vessel there. Carriers decide to retreat back to base. That was very uneventful. A lot of Templars here on the low ground though, storming those tanks. Now the carriers coming to clear out the tanks as well. Goliaths are on the way. This is probably one of the biggest Goliath masses I've seen in my life. And those Goliaths are going to be posing a very, very big threat here for those carriers. But Zealot's coming in from the back here on the other side of the map. Trying to backdoor. KingsNeverDie, can he get in? Can he deal some damage with those Zealots? Or does he go in a little bit too early? The Templars there are taking down Goliaths, but they're taking down Interceptors as well. And he accidentally clicked on his own Interceptor instead of on the Goliaths when he wanted to use the stasis. So he winds up stasising himself, which is one of the most unfortunate things I've seen happen so far. Luckily though, he only stasised 2 Interceptors and 3 Templars, but still very, very unlucky, I guess. Or maybe he's just really bad at clicking. I don't know. Can be anything. HamburgerSasu knows he cannot really get in all too deep, because he's lost his tanks, which means he can no longer push, because Goliath's not as great at pushing as tanks are. He starts pulling out all the SFEs, sends them out all around the map, starts making turrets left and right. It does hurt his mineral income by quite a bit, because honestly, he's got 30 SFEs on the gas. He's got about 71 SCVs in total. About 10 of them are strewn about in his base. It means he got about 20 of them mining, because he pulled a lot of them off to the sides there. His income is in a really bad shape, because he's honestly pulled too many SCVs off the minerals. And this might be a really good chance here, a really good window for KingsNeverDie to deal some counter damage. Although KingsNeverDie probably does not know the detail, the information that HamburgerSasu has pretty much no minerals, thanks to himself, honestly. So push happening here on the side. He's focusing on the pylons because the pylons go down. Well, he's not focusing on the pylons, he's focusing on everything. Usually players focus on the pylons so the pylons go down quicker. Fight still happening here on the side. Carriers have taken a lot of damage. Goliaths seem to have won the fight there. Carriers have been forced back into their base. Still cannoning up the front here massively to make it harder and harder for HamburgerSasu to push in through the front. HamburgerSasu, satisfied with the amount of turrets he's got here, is starting to go for the push once again. Goliaths meeting carriers on the middle, but carriers once again already being forced back into base because the amount of turrets, the amount of Goliaths is simply too big, too great for carriers to fight into. He's gonna need at least 24 carriers if he even wants to try and fight into this, because this is never gonna work. So the pylons here have gone down. Gateways are now free food for those Goliaths and tanks to eat up. Single tank. Upgrades are older in 2-2, almost on 3-3 for his mech. 2-2-3 here for KingsNeverDie. He's a little bit ahead in upgrades at the moment as compared to earlier. Fight still happening here. He managed to sneak his Archons over the wall into the fight here using a recall. Using his Templars there as well to storm and kill the tanks and the Goliaths here on the low ground. Double storming the tanks to kill them. And the Interceptor number is now already gone down back to close to 0. So he has to pull back and replenish his Interceptors, which is honestly not that great for KingsNeverDie. I think he was trying to open up a hole here for shuttles to fly through so we can go for a storm drop on the minerals of HamburgerSasu and slow HamburgerSasu down to the degree where HamburgerSasu cannot produce any more units. In which case, KingsNeverDie can start attacking the mass here on the front, and the mass wouldn't be capable of being replaced. But HamburgerSasu handled that pretty well, responding very quickly by moving his entire mass to wherever the carriers are. And considering the carriers are now in base, all of his units are moving to the base and attacking the base. Templars being loaded up here on the top side of the hill, storming the Goliaths, and the tanks down here on the low ground. They're happening as well. Great use of the hill to protect those, take the focus away from those Templars, but nonetheless, KingsNeverDie got pushed back by a tiny bit, back into the corner. The HamburgerSasu is still progressing tiny bit by tiny bit. Little detail is, that's very cute little details, that he's repairing the tanks with his SCV. So yeah, another stasis comes down. Managed to get a good stasis off on a couple of units there on the low ground. Carriers now having a bit of an easier time fighting, because let me just highlight this. He does not have vision up on the hill. He has to keep scanning. And he has been scanning really diligently, but he's gonna lose vision up on the hill here very soon. And there it goes, vision is gone. So whatever KingsNeverDie is gonna keep hovering over up on the hill and abuse the fact that it's very hard for HamburgerSasu to get vision up on the hill unless he keeps using his scans. And he has 4 scans, which means that he can continuously get information there up on the hill and fight. I'm just gonna keep it like this for a little while so we know what he's up against. Because when you're looking at it like this, you sometimes forget that it can be really hard to fight against carriers that are up on a hill. But if you look at it like this, you start to understand how difficult it can be. Because every single time those carriers come in, you gotta scan, you gotta target select, and once the scan runs out, you lose vision of the hill, and you lose, well, your target, and the Goliaths are tripping out because they can no longer see the thing that they were commanded to attack. And the push is happening really quick, already threatening the robotic facilities, 2 Reavers there in the back as well, taking down whatever comes a little bit too close to the cannons and to the carriers. The pushback is happening here. This is looking like a very difficult fight here for HamburgerSasu, because even though he managed to push in all this far, he is once again now being pushed back, because the carrier number this time around is way higher than before. He's got at least 16 carriers there in the mix, because I'm counting 12 here in the group, and I'm counting about 4 of them being loose. Another one there coming in. He's going for the 20 carrier mass, which honestly, in my opinion, is the way to go, because carriers become so strong once you have 20 of them fighting. You don't even really have to micro them anymore. You can just send them in and A-move them and keep replenishing those interceptors, and they will just clear out whatever there is. Goliaths, though, are a great option into those carriers. And once again, hanging up on the hill. Those scans are gonna have to keep getting used. If HamburgerSasu wants to get vision up on the hill there, his minerals are still very low, but he's got enough Goliaths to fight into this, although his supply count is 172, not maxed out. Shuttles trying to go in, but HamburgerSasu saw the shuttles. KingsNeverDie unloads one of the shuttles, so we can start clearing out at least those turrets there on the side and not lose the Reavers. Smart reaction there. At least getting some use out of those Reavers. I suspect HamburgerSasu might move up a couple of units here to the side and start clearing out those Reavers before he loses all of these turrets. He spent so much trouble for getting ready. New turrets already being queued up. There come the Goliaths ready to clear out those Reavers. And yeah, he's just waiting for his mass to get back to max. And probably going for raids. I was expecting Valkyries, but it's raids instead. There is no observer here for... Yeah, no observer for KingsNeverDie, so the raid switch-up might just be what he needs to break this carrier mass. I don't see any observatories either anywhere inside of KingsNeverDie's base. That's honestly a really great observation. If HamburgerSasu saw and noticed the detail that whenever he scanned there were no observers in the mix, or that there was no observatory inside of KingsNeverDie's his base, then it's a really great adaptation from HamburgerSasu to go for raids. Usually people go for Valkyries, because then you can take down those interceptors really easily. Alright, so he's moving himself down to the side. HamburgerSasu is pulling back all of his Goliaths. One little thing HamburgerSasu can do, though, is send his tanks out into the enemy base and start pushing here at the front, while the fight is happening here on the side of his base. But that might be pushing his multitasking ability a little bit too far. Just a little bit too far. So raids coming in, he sees no observers there in the mix, so you just gotta He's just gonna shift command all of those carriers down, but the Arbiter is coming in hot. He's got the energy for stasis. He tries to dodge. He dodges the stasis, kills the Arbiter. Great reaction there from HamburgerSasu. Now going for the carriers. The carriers going down really quick. He's focusing them down with both the Goliaths and the Raids, which means the carriers are standing pretty much no match for HamburgerSasu's unit combination here. Mostly because of the fact that KingsNeverDie made the mistake of not adding observers into the mix. Always add observers into the mix, because if the opponent, if the Terran switches up to raids and you don't have observers, your carriers go down. About as quick as we've seen it here. About as quick as we've seen it happen here, and this is about as quick as it can be. Unless, of course, you've got Valkyries hammering away on stacked up carriers. Like 24 Valkyries against 24 carriers. And the Valkyries come flying in and mow down those carriers with their AoE damage while they're all stacked up on top of each other. Beautiful sight to behold, really quick as well. So shuttle drop coming in over the right side of the map. HamburgerSasu attacking on the left side of the map. And this is a moment where the game is very painful for KingsNeverDie. But there is a silver lining. Because even though he lost his entire carry mass, he does have a free path into the base of HamburgerSasu here on the bottom side of the map. And HamburgerSasu is not responding to it. Templars being unloaded, Templars get their storm down, and another storm, more storms, everything getting storm, losing SCVs left and right. Only 1500 minerals left for HamburgerSasu, and about 25 SCVs in total. HamburgerSasu must have finally noticed that something happened in his base and is now sending his tanks back to clear out those units there on the low ground. But at the same time, a push is happening here in the front. Will KingsNeverDie hold this, or will this be a nail in the coffin? So all he has to do is hold out for Hero, naming the carriers in this case, and push back, and then he'll be completely fine. He'll be completely fine. HamburgerSasu does have 5 command centers. He does have a lot of gas. Honestly, he doesn't have to mine gas for at least the next 4 or 5 minutes. So you can just put everything on his minerals there. Help himself recover a little bit quicker. And the fact he's got 5 command centers means he's getting 5 SCVs per 15 seconds. Or 14 seconds to be more precise. Let's just cap it off at 15 seconds. He's getting about 20 SCVs a minute. So the recovery is there, but it does halt him in his tracks. Let's stop him in his tracks, because he was pushing out here very, very happily. And had he not gotten dropped, he could have kept on pushing and replacing whatever units he kept losing. But not this time around. So recall coming in here on the right side of HamburgerSasu's base. HamburgerSasu's got no Goliaths to intercept. He's got nothing to intercept, actually. Templars there on the low ground as well. He goes in. Storm's coming down there as well. Storms, however, cannot reach the SCVs because he's blocking his own Templars, which means that now HamburgerSasu is going in to snipe the Templars, and he's dodging the storms, but does lose most of his raids there in the process. This Templar, no energy. Yeah, no energy left on those Templars, but the Zealots are wreaking some havoc. Archon there in the mix as well, but the Archon goes down. SCV is running away. 8 minerals left for HamburgerSasu. Only 8 minerals left for HamburgerSasu. And the supply count has dropped significantly. But he's still alive, and he didn't lose his SCVs once again. So he's in a good position right now. He's in a pretty good spot, but the other recall is already flying all over the map. But it might get spotted out. There's a very small chance it might get spotted out. Going straight down, actually. Let's see if it gets spotted out. No, never mind. Change direction, is going straight to here and fly in over the right side. But this time around, there are vessels inside of the base of HamburgerSasu. So HamburgerSasu might be capable of getting that EMP down on the Arbiter once he tries to fly in. Plus, HamburgerSasu is sending out his raids to the right side of his base. Splits them up as well. That's a Navy strategy. But what is this? What is this? Yeah, he stayed right outside of the vision by pure luck. Pure coincidence. Alright, so KingsNeverDie mixed up his mass, threw in a couple of Corsairs as well, added in Observers as well, which is really what he needed. That's all he needed. The Corsairs, of course, also a great addition to the mix, because Corsairs are amazing against Valkyries and Raids. They tear right through them like they're made of butter. or whatever else, whatever saying you use to describe it. The point is, they go down very quick, like laser cutters cutting through steel, or bread, or paper, or foam. Right, so the Arbiter goes in, the Arbiter got energy, but the Arbiter, a little bit of a weird location to recall. Instead of recalling here, he recalls a little bit too far away, but he goes in, pulls his Templars up, Storm's gonna come down on those SCVs, or will he reach the destination? He doesn't reach the destination. Plus his Templars got EMP'd. He did get a single Storm off, but he killed pretty much no SCVs whatsoever there, so HamburgerSasu in pretty good shape, even after that second recall. Is there a third recall on the way? I assume there is, because there's already another Arbiter out here for KingsNeverDie. The side here getting seized. Valkyries there hammering away on the carriers. And look at them carriers go, losing their HP so damn quick. Goliath also entering the mix, ready to finish off those carriers, and the carriers now forced to pull back. Because honestly, those Valkyries are tearing through them way too fast. They're shredding them down, killing their shields, using the AoE. He tries to split up his carriers. Pretty good split, which should mitigate some of the Valkyrie AoE damage. But nonetheless, HamburgerSasu comes out on top. Now the raids are coming in. Plus side of Valkyries is also that they do kill observers really quick without having to focus and attack the observers themselves, because the AoE from the Valkyries kills the observers whenever interceptors return back to base, or whenever you are simply attacking the carriers themselves. So HamburgerSasu's minerals still at the lowest point. They have been still at the same point they've been at. This lowest point is 8. This game, lowest point is 8 minerals. But they're still at a very low point, although the income has somewhat steadied up and leveled out. Because he's now on 65 SVs, minerals are somewhat good. His gas has dropped by 4,000, but he can still hang on to that gas for about another minute or 3, maybe 5, depending on how many units he loses. And it looks like he won't lose all that many units. Another drop coming in here from the right side. This time HamburgerSasu sees it coming in, sends his Valkyries into the mix, and takes down his shuttles before any harm is done once again. Downside though of having this many Valkyries is that the opponent can decide to discontinue carrier use and just go for massive gateway units. But it looks like KingsNeverDie does not have a very big amount of gateways. Because here we've got 6. Here we've got another 6. There's 13 gateways. Not that many. He's now adding on more Stargates because he needs more carrier production ability. Because his carrier production capability is only being on 8 at a time. He did get an EMP off on the Arbiters. That's a really great snipe there from HamburgerSasu, which should delay any more follow-up recalls by a minute or 2, because energy restoration on Arbiters is pretty damn slow. I think you get 1 energy per second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Might be a little bit slower than 1 per second even. HamburgerSasu feeling safe, feeling comfy after that EMP on the Arbiters, starts to move out once again, and he wants to win the game with this impending push of doom. The impending doom of the push. 2 vessels there in the back, ready to keep EMPing on those carriers and the Arbiters. But it looks like KingsNeverDie already has a drop flying out. He prepared himself quite well for this drop. If he can hit that one, if he can slow down the income of HamburgerSasu, he will be capable of potentially holding this frontal push here, because the frontal push is quite big. A lot of Goliaths there in the mix. Valkyries there, of course, as well. Drop landing. Drop has arrived on destination. Storm comes down, but he misses most of the SCVs. Kills about 10 of them, but most of the SCVs have run away. Back to safety. Now coming back again. But there's still a couple Templars there on the low ground. Do they have energy? No energy on the Templars, but still a lot of Zealots there. And no units whatsoever to defend against them. A couple of Goliaths are spawning though, but those Zealots might actually take down. Even though he missed the storms, those Zealots might take on all the SCVs here nonetheless. Looks like HamburgerSasu is starting to realize that he's still losing SCVs to those Zealots, so he's very quickly trying to kill those Zealots and Templars with his SCVs before Storm Energy comes back up. So still a lot of mining time lost, and he still wound up losing 30 SCVs. Definitely not worth it for HamburgerSasu. Definitely a great shot there for KingsNeverDie. Did he get another Storm off? He got another Storm off. He actually got another Storm off while I wasn't looking. And HamburgerSasu is back to 14 SCVs. That's very painful for him because he has pretty much no minerals left. He's got a couple of Valkyries here in the front, and Goliaths there as well, which might be capable of killing the carriers that KingsNeverDie has here. KingsNeverDie is being very smart, pulls them back to the shield batteries to at least restore some energy on the carriers. KingsNeverDie knows that he's probably won the game at this point. At least that's what he's thinking. But there's still a chance that HamburgerSasu can still win the game, because once again he still has 4,000 gas. That's at least 40 Goliaths he can still make. So all he has to do is make SCVs and put them on the minerals. But it's going to take a while. KingsNeverDie is being smart here because he's adding Templars into his unit mix. And simply just storming the Goliaths, who of course do die to 2 storms at a time. And now the Zealots are chasing them down as well. But Zealots not that beefy compared to the Goliaths, so they of course return back to base. More carriers finishing up for KingsNeverDie. And the tables have once again been flipped around. The HamburgerSasu is once again on the receiving end of the abuse that KingsNeverDie is dishing out at him. SV count back on 42. Supply on 188. So he's, technically speaking, in quite a good spot. His income is somewhat leveling out to be rather good again. At least we're covered in that regard, but he's got no gas income. And he's defending against quite a big carrier mass. And there comes the stasis down on all the Valkyries. 12 Valkyries stuck in stasis. Can't use them for at least the next 40 seconds. And that's going to be very painful. That might be the decider for KingsNeverDie. Plus, he just got stormed once again. Got dropped down from 55 SCPs down to 36. Got no units there in the back around his main command center, so he's just using SCVs to kill those Zealots. But Zealots, of course, being so beefy with all those upgrades, practically take no damage from the SCVs whatsoever. Meaning that the Zealots are killing SCVs really quickly. Carriers there in the front have taken down all the Goliaths. Goliaths are spawning from the factories though, but the amount is so small that KingsNeverDie is just gonna, keep going on. Keep pushing on, keep hammering away. He's prepared to sacrifice his carriers because he knows that he just has to keep HamburgerSasu on his toes. He's got to keep HamburgerSasu busy with spending minerals. And he can then just replace his lost carriers with more carriers or Zealots or Templars or whatever he wants, because he's already got the game in the pocket. He's already got this game in the pocket. It would take a freak accident, a freak occurrence for KingsNeverDie to still wound up losing this game. Another drop comes in from the northern side of the wall. HamburgerSasu is not prepared, got no units to fight this. Zealots unloading, Templar, but it's mostly just Zealots. There's a single Templar there in the mix. Storm comes down on the SCVs, and SCVs once again going down. Only 5 SCVs left and 29 minerals for HamburgerSasu. HamburgerSasu is done. He is done. The realization hasn't yet sunk in. He's not yet calling the GG. He's not yet leaving the game. KingsNeverDie just happily hammering away at whatever he can find. Those Zealots having the time of their life. Carriers have gone down in the meantime, though. And HamburgerSasu is still... Oh, looks like HamburgerSasu left the game even. He's AFK. His APM is dropping down so damn quick. From 350 all the way down to 150. This might be one of those occurrences where HamburgerSasu goes on a rampage on stream, where he's just raging and raging, crying his heart out. This is a devastating loss for HamburgerSasu. Spends 35 minutes fighting a Terran versus Protoss, doing a really good job. But then KingsNeverDie just comes out straight out of left field and pretty much goes for the textbook finish, where drops in the end do wind up being the saving grace for the Protoss. Without those drops, he would have rolled over and died at least 20 minutes ago. Goes to show how important disrupting the economy is. By the way, yeah, HamburgerSasu's EPM is already down to 50. KingsNeverDie isn't even really trying anymore. He's just going to clear out the entire base. HamburgerSasu is being a salty bitch. He's not planning on leaving anytime soon. The salt is very, very real. Even though I can't see him, I can smell it, I can feel it, I can sense it. Yeah, I'm not gonna wait and watch for all of this to die. I'm gonna speed up the game. HamburgerSasu eventually does leave at 39 minutes and 47 seconds. And KingsNeverDie is the victor. Beats the almighty HamburgerSasu. Protoss versus Terran. With a relatively small base. But with really well coordinated attacks. Smart setups. And just playing it by the book. No weird variations. No weird tactics. Just very straightforward. Carriers, drops, zealot attacks, disrupting economy, and using the strength of carriers to keep your opponent at bay. Some very smart mix-ups with some Templars there in the defense as well. Of course, Corsairs to fight against raids. Staying calm and calculated. Never panicking. Never throwing the towel into the ring to give up. Just hanging in there and coming out on top. Yeah, that's the game. Thanks for watching. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, salut.